Well, it looks like I have a stream that's actually working. Although, I really should play it safe and try to cut off a PlayStation or two. And, let's see here. As soon as anybody comes in, let me know if it's choppy or what's going on with it. Because I had another thing I was contemplating while I was writing my business plan, and I wanted to share. Let me go back here. And turn off Futurama. My wife was going to sleep too. And put something on the TV so it doesn't shut the fuck off, because that's annoying. Because it doesn't like to turn back on. Mute TV mode. There we go. Okay. Now, so I was pricing out these current USA products here. And sorry about the trippy effects there at the laptop screen. And it occurred to me that since this was kind of a pain in the royal ass, picking the right ones for a 55 gallon, I could only imagine that if you had a smaller tank than a 55, trying to get the right efflux pumps is, well, it's some annoying guesswork. So I'm hoping to mitigate some of that damage for you and take some of the guesswork out of it by explaining what exactly you get with what pump as far as the current USA efflux wave pumps goes. Now, I have two systems on here, one running Orbit LEDs and one running the old Marine LEDs, two of them, and both of them, I have two different efflux manifolds, and because I'm opening up a marine store, I thought it would be prudent for me to order one of each pump so I could see exactly how they worked, how exactly they compared to each other. Now, if you'll notice the wave action in that 55 gallon. Now, there's not a lot of rock in that tank. It's fairly open as far as flow goes. That is one 2100 gallon per hour efflux wave pump. So that's the top of the three models. In this 20 gallon long, I have a shit ton of rock, and I'm using one of the 660 gallon per hour models and one of the 1050 gallon per hour models. And you know, that works because I got a couple of corals on the other side that I don't want blown around too much. But if I was going to set that up like a normal reef tank, instead of one that's jam-packed full of rock like that one is, I would probably want two of the smaller ones for a very open flow setup. And then if I had a halfway decent amount of rock, I'd probably want two of the uh, 1050s. Just if you just got a crap ton of rock. Now, if you wanted to set it up where you had three different pumps, three of the 660s might work for a very small tank, 20 gallons or less. But if you're dealing with like 15 gallon, two of the 660s should be just fine. However, if you use, say, one of the 660s and one of the 1050s, you can turn one of them down and run it at 50%, 70%, and then that gives you the option of what I call storming the tank, which is you turn up the pump to help clear out detritus. This is especially effective while you're doing a sand stirring to keep everything up suspended in the water column so it can get taken out by the protein skimmer. Now, when it comes to what is it really good for, the 660 pumps, as far as like what pump can I put two of those on and have like a laminar wave back and forth and then still be able to storm it? You're probably looking at one of those 10 gallon or less, maybe a 12 gallon. But once you get into around 15 gallons, I would put one of the 660s and one of the 1050s. Now, again, back to that 20 gallon long, I would, as a preference, prefer to have two of the 1050s on there, because then I could dial them both back to 70% and not have to run one at 90%, the smaller one, and still kind of want for just a little more current. Now, one thing to bear in mind about these pumps is they're very directional. They're not like an MP40 or a Fluval C, where the flow spreads out a whole lot. So bear that in mind when setting them up and when choosing which ones to get. Now, then you have the issue of the pricing. Okay. Now these are from a kind of annoying eBay seller. So I recommend you try to pay a little more. But I'm writing this up for a business plan, and I'm going to resell these locally. Hopefully once I get a wholesaler, I'll get some better prices and I'll be able to resell at better prices. But as far as local sales go, I don't think my prices are going to be too bad, just by tediously shop hunting on eBay. Well, so here's the deal. The difference between the 1050 and the 2100 is significant. As significant as the performance, which is significant. Again, that 55 gallon with the wave going across the top, that's all just one of those 2100 pumps. Okay? But now, the difference between the 660 and the 1050, especially from the other sellers, not like the dirt cheap one that I found that has one at was it $68.99 or something like that. You'd probably be better off going for the 1050. because you can usually find that for around 90 to $100, as opposed to the 80, 70 to $80 you'd pay for the slightly smaller one. And I find that the performance gap is noticeably significant. Like, you'd normally kind of maybe expect the 1050 to do a little bit better than the 660. No, it's a good one third better. It's like you almost want to think it's better than a third better, but it says right there it's a third better, or I guess that counts as a little bit better than a third better. But the performance, I'm telling you, on the 1050 makes it worth the money. So if I was gonna have um, a 12 to 20 gallon, I would want two of those 1050s. Um, Two of those and one of the 660s for the rear would be great for a 20 gallon. Three of those, three total, because you can hook three up into one controller. Two of them going wave current, and one of them going stream. It can be a steady stream or a variable stream, but either way, it can't work as a wave pump thing. And if you have three of those in a 29 gallon, like a regular 29 gallon show, you'll probably be just fine. And because of the difficulty of how a 29 gallon makes current, or allows you to make current, or hinders current, probably the same three pumps would work for a 40 gallon show. Now, for 4 foot long tanks, like your 55 gallon and your 75 gallon and on up, you would want two of the 2100 gallon pumps and one of the 1050s. For a 120 gallon tank or bigger, you'd want to go ahead and get three of the 2100 gallon pumps. And, well, any bigger than that, and you need to be not looking at using Current USA stuff. Because Current USA, its sweet spot is that 4 foot tank. For instance, you can put a 36 to 48 inch light strip with an extra light strip, so you have two lights, with a mounting bracket, and hover nicely over the center of a big tank like that. Or you can have just one of the 48s or two of the 48 to 60s, and they'll cover the whole thing. Now, I'm not really aware of any, or which aquariums. I'm sure there are some, but I don't know which aquariums come in 60 inches. 5 foot long? I think it would just go up to 6 foot, but But anyways, I was hoping Max would show up here in case he had any questions. I don't know what his setup is, but I know he's setting up a 15 gallon. And, well, if you're gonna put wave makers in there, that's for hard corals. That's to keep the dust and detritus off of hard corals, and it really keeps the bacterial population and everything just kind of looking a lot healthier. You know, the more current finds every little nook and cranny of the tank, the healthier overall everything is, corals and fish included. But anyways, um, now as far as lighting levels, I guess I could throw in a little tidbit about that. You need three of them on the glass in a shallow tank to grow highlight SPS. Okay? Otherwise, it will never take the place of like metal highlight halides and the more intense lighting strip LEDs that they have out there. Um, but if you have a shallow tank, like a 20-gallon long, um, three of those strips, or what I'm using is two of those and a Core Life Aqualight S, the LED Aqualight, the little cheap one, making three strips total. And I've got it about 4 inches above the tank because heating issues. Yeah, even with LEDs, heating issues. You know, nice and cool for my anemones. But say you want to go to Petco and get your nice cheap setup, and you want to know what corals you can grow. Well, you'll be able to grow Monty Pores and Turbinarias and Hollywood Stunners and or Chalice corals and Parietes and some lower light SPS. Just don't expect to grow any of the bright light SPS. And all you need is to make sure you got two of those strips going all the way across the tank. Like, okay, so for a mixed reef with you know, lower light corals and some soft corals and a bunch of fish, it'd look really beautiful to have two of the 36-inch strips on a 48-inch tank, you know, hovering nicely above it, looking all pretty, right? But if you want to grow more corals, you need to set those lights down right on there and get all the light they can. Have a glass lid on there to protect it, because you don't want to get these LEDs wet. Oh no. As soon as they start to short circuit from a little seawater, a little wire will pop on the inside and boom, no more light. And you gotta open it up and solder it. I don't even know if that's gonna work. I have a couple broken ones. I want to fix them. But anyways, so the point of this is these are a little higher quality than the Chinese made ones, and they're a lot cheaper than any of the other ones, and they're very powerful. And it looks like for $100 to $120 you can get this Bluetooth controller here, and that lets you have like thunderstorms and waves coming through a little sound system. You can just like plug it into your iPhone and use that for the sound, or plug it into some surround speakers or whatever. It has a temperature sensor, which is very handy. You can program daily weather events to happen in the middle of the day. And of course, you get all the other controls for everything in one place, like you would with a loop controller. Only you can sit on your couch and use Bluetooth and, you know, use your Android or iPhone. And really, for $100 with all that extra capability, $100 is worth just having the digital temperature sensor, I think. If you have a bunch of coral that you care about, that is. But anyways, from there you can set up all three of your wave pumps that you have controlled, and the Bluetooth lets you daisy chain. So I'm not sure, but theoretically, I got to see what the app lets you do. But theoretically, the app should let you um, control more than three pumps. But I got to check into that. I'm really interested to see whether or not that's the case. But anyways, oh look, I got my TV working again. Yay! And on that bombshell, the other thing you want to keep in mind is that return pump. If you have a sump, these current USA E-Flux return pumps, I was looking at the energy efficiency of them in relation to other pumps, and they're the best, it seems. I can get nearly 3 times as much flow from one of these return pumps for 75% of the power consumption, and that's just kind of mind-blowing to think about, but it happens to be the case. And I'm looking forward to using some of those. Now, they're DC pumps, so they're not going to be good head height return pumps. So don't think you can run a basement sump with them. But, you know, if you're going to be running, say, 8 foot or less, no problem. They have a max head height, the 3170 right there for 255 has a max head height of 20 feet, which ain't bad. Okay. What's up, Max? It's like you and one other person showed up at the same time. But anyways, those return pumps, they can be adjusted with the Bluetooth controller or with the integrated control loop unit that comes with the lighting. And I think they can be added in addition to the third pump, the third wave maker. There's a little, there's a USB port that I think is what links them up. But otherwise, you'll be running 2 of the wave makers and 1 of these return pumps. But with the Bluetooth controller, I know for a fact you can run all 3 wave makers and 2 return pumps. So for $160, or no, wait, no, it was $260. Yeah, geez. For $260, you can get a similar DC wave pump that does like 1,200 gallons per hour. But there's a smaller version than this right here. I just wanted to sell these two because this one can be dialed back. But if you had a big setup, you could run 2 of these, bringing you to 3,600 gallons per hour, and you'd have 2 different return pumps. So like, you'd always be guaranteed that one was working, even in the odd event that one would go bad. And you could really adjust your flow. And, you know, if you had a really big setup, you could always use 2 of these. I'm actually planning on using 2 of these on the Gaia aquarium, and I'll get to that in a second because since I've decided on going with that, I've kind of changed it around a little bit, and I'm very happy with it. And I'd like to just kind of veg out on that for a second with y'all. But the thing about these is, especially with that $100, $120 Bluetooth controller, after 6 weeks, they're not making the nano tank you ordered. Well, that's just stupid. Can you just get a Fluval Evo or yeah, Fluval Evo, man? You got to be able to find a Fluval Evo. That's made in Germany. That's a NATO brand right there. Fluval. Fluval is the NATO aquarium brand. Actually, you get it on eBay for like $108. In fact, if I could use the internet without screwing up my stream, I'd just pull it up right now. But the Candid Cow, I think, is the store that has the good deals on Fluval Evos. But you can get that 16-gallon, and I want to say that it looked like somebody had a current USA light hooked up to one of those. So if you wanted to just buy one of the freshwater setups, you can convert it to saltwater. Fluval C makes a skimmer that'll tuck right in the back of there. Marine Depot sells a little bubble-powered skimmer that's even cheaper. But then there's always just going to a regular pet store and buying a fucking, 20-gallon breeder. And you see at the bottom there I have Tunzi written. Tunzi is the one brand that can take the place of a sump, because they have a thing called an osmolator. And what that allows you to do is just have a little jug of water underneath your fish tank, and it pumps the water back into the top tank. You have a sensor that you can just clip over the back of the aquarium, basically. And as soon as the water gets a little bit low, it just pumps a little more fresh water in there. It gets a little lower, pumps a little more fresh water in there. And as long as you got a little bit of marine buffer in there, and kind of top it off with some salt water every now and again, it's pretty foolproof. I haven't heard of them going crazy and, overflowing the tank. There's no gravity at work. It's a little pump. But anyways, so what I was saying is, for a 10-gallon or like a 12-gallon Evo or something like that, you could put two of these little E-flux guys hooked up to a small orbit loop. And that would be a nice little wave setup that you grow coral with. And in a shallow tank like an Evo, you could grow all but the highlight SPS by adding in one of these extra lights. And then, so the loop controller here will control 2 lights and 3 pumps. But if you add the Bluetooth controller later on, you can have all that, and then you can add a sump to it, and it'll control the sump pump. Or you can just add it for shits and giggles for the weather effects. Because something about having, like, the thunderstorm with the sound effects, oh, it just tickles me. But one of my big beefs with saltwater aquariums, one thing that they don't talk to you about, and really they should, because they need to be selling you a product to fix this problem. Thermometers don't really fucking work very well in saltwater. The conductivity and heat transfer varies depending on the mineral content of the salt water, and the pressure's different, the specific gravity's different. You know, when you got a difference in specific gravity on a thermometer that's designed to work under fresh water or just out in the air, you're dealing with something that works by pressure. So if you're changing the pressure, there's something else changing the pressure, you know, other than temperature. So that there's the temperature reading, which is determined by pressure caused by temperature change, now being affected by pressure in addition to temperature change, to be off. So the reason why, like, I'll let myself get overly enthusiastic about the storm effects controlling, and the fact that you can program weather events and, like, you know, control stuff from your phone instead of having to get up and find the remote and point it at the thing, and then all that bullshit. The temperature sensor. It comes with a fucking USB temperature sensor. That's awesome. That to me, just having a digital USB Bluetooth temperature sensor, I just check my damn temperature, look at my tank, it looks off, temperature's fine, okay, temperature's fine. Make sure no heaters are overheating, nothing like that, you know, because you don't want your shit to bleach. That is bad. And also, like, for years I had problems with anemones because I didn't realize how cold my aquarium was getting at night. And who knows what other problems you could avoid by avoiding that same problem. Like, for instance, bacterial detritus buildup actually increases in lower temperatures. So if you have a low temperature spike happening at night and you're not noticing it because you're not going over there squinting at the fucking thermometer that you can barely see, you'll never know. You'll never fix it. And you'll have a problem that you won't be able to detect, and you'll think your aquarium's shitty when it's just having a low temperature spike at night. You got your Bluetooth controller. It's sitting there telling you it's at 73 degrees. Oh crap. I need to actually make sure I got an extra heater in there with a little more sensitive. Because sometimes, like, one heater in one place will work during the day, but then the overall temperature will drop at night because the lights aren't on. But if you increase the temperature on that heater at the bottom, like at a sump setup, for instance, then you're going to overheat the whole tank during the day. So what you have to do is you have to add a second heater to the top tank, or a second heater to the bottom tank in a different spot, but ideally a second heater to the top tank that's going to be set at a lower temperature. Say I got my bottom tank heater set to 78, I'll set the top heater to 77. Just 1 degree difference. That way there's not too much fluctuation. But as soon as those lights go off and that heater at the bottom, you know, isn't working because it's used to the light being on, it'll take a while to heat up. Or maybe it'll just struggle. It doesn't have enough overall capacity without being constantly on, because now the lights aren't providing that extra heat source. Then that secondary heater at the top comes on. Bottom heater doesn't have to overwork. Temperature stays nice and consistent. Corals and fish are happy. But anyways, Bluetooth. Usually something that people have on the fancy Apex setups. And Apex, man, it's a lot more involved, but a lot more expensive. Now, before I end this video, I'm going to show you what I'm doing for the giant interactive fish tank here. We are going to have, first of all, we're going to have reflected sunlight. So I'm not entirely reliant on this crap. But we're going to be using 2 of the dual 36-inch Pro LED strips. And I'm going to kind of use those how most people would use T5s, kind of up and along the corners, but a little bit angled inwards, obviously. Otherwise, it wouldn't work very well. And then hanging above the tank, in the middle, is going to be the tuna sun. And then surrounding it on the left, right, and in front of it, because it's a giant fucking square tank. And I'm not going to really have anything in the back. The back is going to be dark. It's just going to be de-stressing area for fish to swim in, basically. And to make the whole thing kind of look very deep and oceanic, you know. Just going to have an island of coral in the very middle. And the back is going to be kept dark. And yeah, so 3 tuna blues above that. Now, even all that lighting, and that's $2,000 worth of lighting, isn't enough for a 4-foot deep fucking tank. And I'll probably be running this up to 7 foot deep, but I'm gonna start it out at just a 4-foot deep tank. Hopefully, maybe I'll be able to put it 7 feet. I really want it to be 7 feet deep, but call it 7 feet. Obviously, this is not enough light for a 7 foot deep. It might be enough for a 4-foot deep tank to a certain extent. Okay, but this is going to be reflected skylight for the most part. This light here should only be providing about 1/3 of the light. And of course, I got a lot of blue on there between the current USA strips and the tuna suns, I mean the tuna blues, because in the evening, you know, not much light's going to make it at the angle that I want it, you know. So the light augmentation is more focused towards the evening on there. And we're going to have two gigantic but old school style 8-inch wide protein skimmers. The whole footprint of these setups is 10 inches by 14 inches. So these are gigantic fucking protein skimmers. Not very tall, you know, not like the giant towering ones that you'd see on most big show aquariums. But I can't afford fucking multi-$1,000 protein skimmers, man. I got the best ones I can find for $320 a piece, and I'm gonna change them, you know, one day and one the next day. So they're gonna be a protein skimmer cleaning per day, alternating each. I'm hoping. Um, the whole front filter area is going to be kind of like a trough setup, and before the return pump area as a wall, I'm going to be using coarse foam, like high flow filter media. Very, very coarse, very loose. It's not really so much for water polishing as basically to keep any fish that get sucked up through the system from getting sucked into the return pump area. That's just going to keep it, you know, safe and give me, you know, some foam filter pads to clean for when I do clean out the filters themselves, basically, or the sump, the giant show sump area, I'm calling it. We kick up a lot of shit, let the foam filter pads soak it up, and then clean out the filter pads and put them back. Good times. Now, on my big show system, I'm going to have two of these 3,170 gallon per hour DC flow pumps. And it's going to be pumping an 8-foot head height, so I'm probably only going to get about 2,000 gallons per hour out of each of them. But that's okay, because I'm going to have 6 of these 2,100 gallon per hour DC wave pumps for a total of 12,600 gallons per hour of current, in addition to the 4,000 right there. So about 16,000 gallons per hour total water movement. Plus, in the back of this aquarium, I have another sump that's going to be running a 782 gallon aqua pump, plus possibly another one, and it's going to be powering my big wave maker and the breeding setup. Now, one of the reasons, among all the reasons, another reason why I want the DC flow wave pumps and the DC flow return pump on that is so I can turn all this shit off at the touch of a button, or turn it way down, or whatever I need to do, and then basically all I will have is one valve that I need to manually operate from behind to control the flow of this, which is going to be tied into the harvesting system. Okay, so if you, let's see here, where's Gaia? There we go. If you look back here, what this represents, obviously I'm not including all the details on how I make it work, but that's going to be a harvesting system that is going to allow me to choose multiple sizes of what I want to harvest. So any different life form is going to have a different size egg or fry or whatever, and I'll be able to choose what I harvest by straining at a certain level. So basically I'll have like a little gold sifting area that automatically just catches whatever it is, keeps it alive, takes care of it, even while I'm not looking. And it's going to allow me to notice and react and, you know, harvest in denser consistencies, and kind of has a time buying mechanism built into it. And there's my little sump system down there. Gonna have my pumps and my protein skimmers in a back area, and there's gonna be the walls of foam over here towards the end of these troughs, and the whole front area is gonna be open glass viewing, or like a glass window, and this is all gonna be wood and fiberglass. And yeah, I'm gonna keep everything visible so people can see how the filtration is done. It'll be like a little learning experience. It's gonna be set up as natural as possible. Like there's gonna be seagrass and clams and crabs and shit, just hanging out, cleaning stuff, keeping the water clear like they would in the wild, or in your Easy Reefers fish tank setup. But anyways, those are all the different racks I need to breed all my fish. And there's Gaia for $5,328. And I'm hoping 8 300-watt heaters is enough. I know it sounds like a lot, but the fucking aquarium could be like 4,200 gallons. I'm not really sure what the volume is going to be, because there's a few things going to take away from the volume, but 4,200 gallons max, 2,800 gallons minimum. Yeah, we're going to be relying on good insulation and the fact that it don't get too cold around here. And hopefully I won't have to put any like jugs of boiling water in the damn thing to keep it from getting too cold during the winter. But yeah, I can always add more heaters later, I suppose. For now, we're going with 8 300-watt heaters. And the reason why I don't want to use those high-powered titanium heaters is because they can really very easily kill baby fish. And I don't, you know, killing baby fish is not my thing. Well, actually it kind of is. But I only kill bunches of baby fish so I can raise some of them. Because that's what clownfish breeding is. It's just watching a bunch of baby fish die and hoping some survive. Working your damnedest to not kill them. Yes, it's trying not to kill fish. Because everything you do can kill them. Just like sneeze too hard, like 20 fish just died. Oh, I farted and lost fucking 30 more. Fucking cat meowed at the fish tank and like 2 of them died. Like, seriously, like baby clownfish are very sensitive. Anything you can do to them will kill them. Like, other than just gently give them food. That's all you can do is just gently feed them. Any other stimuli is like just, I'm dead. But anyways, so you got any questions? It kind of sucks that your fucking fish tank still isn't gonna happen. That's kind of unbelievable, Max. I'm sorry. I'm pissed with you, brother. The thing is, man, even a 10-gallon tank can be a world unto itself when you set it up right and when it's yours to look at. And you can just put your head right up to it and get lost in it. Now, the reason why I still don't scoff at people, or what? No, I scoff at people saying you need a giant tank to start out in, is because there's merits to starting out in a 10-gallon tank. I think the reason why somebody like Than from Tidal Gardens, and it's good advice from his perspective, and he might not be aware of it, but the real reason why he's saying the good beginner tank is a 120-gallon tank is because he's got a lot of very delicate corals that he's trying to sell you. And that's what they want to do, is they want to be able to sell you everything they got and not worry about you complaining about it dying. Okay. But you can still have a very good experience as a beginner without ambitious coral purchases, without trying to get delicate fish. You know, so what if you got the same fish everybody else? You get your own fish and he's your little fish. So what if you got cheap corals that everybody else has? You got them. They're growing the way you like them. You get to aquascape. You get to, you know, there's a million different ways to plant a few different types of grass to make a garden. But if you don't arrange it right, it's just a bunch of weeds. So you can take a 10-gallon tank, get the cheapest loop there is, and you could probably start out with one wave pump, or you can get 2 of these wave pumps. I'd probably start out with 1 of these so I could wind up with 2 of these later. And of course you need your Nano skimmer on the back. want a heater, you got a reef tank. And that's it. You got your protein skimmer, you got your light, you got your current. Now to start off with, you just point that up and make it do laminar flow. And you could run it like my 55 gallon and have that one wave going across. Only, you know, it's just a 10 gallon, so it's not going to go too far. But it's still kind of fun to play with. It's still fun on my 20 gallon, it'll still be fun on a 10 gallon. Another thing to think about is, why do I prefer the 20 long as far as a show tank? Now, if I'm going to be growing clownfish, yes, I want 10 gallons all day long. It's the easiest one to clean. If I'm going to do quarantines, I want 10 gallons all day long. It's the easiest one to clean. But if I want a little tank for myself just to look at, I like a 20 gallon long. That guy right there. With your 20 gallon long, it's not going to be as easy to light as the 10 gallon. The 10 gallon, that 18 inches is going to go all the way across it. The 20 gallon long, the 24 gallon doesn't go all the way across it. The 20 gallon long is 30 inches across. But it still looks really good because of the gap, you know? Like the gap makes it kind of centered, especially when you have two of them. But I really do, and that controller also controls your wave pumps. That's a good deal right there. But yeah, your basics for any reef aquarium. Let's see if I can find my simplest one here. You get your protein skimmer, your heater, and your light. And then you need something to make flow. You need current, because you just need the water to move around the rocks. For the basic filtration, you just need the water to move around the rocks. Stagnant water makes dirty, stinky water. So that right there, see, that's filtration. 4 big old fluval wave makers and 30 pounds of dry rock. And then I got a heater and a light, and that's it. And then underneath it, where is that? That's actually going to be plumbed into one of these guys here with the Reef Octopus protein skimmer, 6 inch. And that's got another heater down there. And a 782 gallon per hour return pump. Which, see, as long as you got a good water source, as long as you're filtering your water with a RODI unit, You don't need a phosphate reactor, you don't need a carbon reactor, you don't need biopellets, you don't need all that shit. You just need, like I said in the last one, marine buffer and either Reef Complete or some two-part. And then, you know, water changes. Once you get experience, you can try to play with the trace elements instead of water changes. It's a hell of a write-up I got here, huh, Max? There we go. Clownfish sales display. 14 10-gallon aquariums. 2 20-gallon long aquariums. Because I'm going to have like 2 little mangrove tanks sitting above the rows of 2 rows of 7 10-gallons, and then 2 little mangrove tanks with trees growing up into the ceiling. Well, eventually. And that's going to be my central little clownfish sales display. I'm going to have these 2 guys hooked up to the backup generator. We're going to have a giant fucking protein skimmer. We're going to have a 900 gallon per hour return pump. And I'm going to be using the world's cheapest fucking heater. Little Tetra HTs. And the world's cheapest LED lights. They're just going to be strung across the top of all of them. Mounted into the wood above it. But anyways, that doesn't have anything to do with this shit. You got any more questions on the E-Flux ones? I really think that for nano tanks in general, this guy is where it's at, because you can turn it down, and I really think that's very valuable. And also, like, you know, once it gets a little algae covered, if you know, if you're not ready to clean it, you can turn it up a little bit and be lazy, you know, that kind of thing. I don't recommend that. I recommend you get in there with the damn toothbrush. But this guy here, start with one, add another one later, and if you get a bunch of live rock, you can always put one of these guys in the back, and you have one hell of a nano setup, and can do moderate light SPS once you order your extra light strip on there. 24 to 30x for a 20 gallon, 18 to 24 inch for a 10 gallon, 36 to 48 inch will go on a 40 gallon breeder. Technically they will go on a 55 gallon like I have, but I have the 48 to 60 inch light because, you know, 48 inches goes across the whole tank. And I like that. Now, 2 of these would look pretty good on a 40 gallon breeder because they'd hover in the middle and have that nice centered effect. 40 gallon breeder's 36 inches long. But to grow coral in there, you'd want the extra light even coming from the sides. Increases the power level overall of that 36 to 48 inch because it'll stress all the way across the tank. And now my brain is literally out of stuff to spit out at you. So I'm going to call this a stream. Last chance for any questions. Otherwise, hope you found this informative and stimulating. And if, you find this channel of any help to you, please donate, as my wife and I are both disabled and unemployed and trying to make shit happen that could help save the world, namely, coastal restoration and whatnot. And, anyways. Oh yeah, here's a nice little cute picture. Isn't that a cute picture? Oh. So, share a link to this video to anybody who you think might need help with their fish tanks. If you want to be a pal and send us a payment, you can use Easy Reefers at, Homie G Dog Gangster Mail, whatever. But otherwise, if you could just click the like button, make sure you subscribe, click the notification bell, and yeah, be a nice person. Share the link. Helps me out. Y'all take it easy. Don't take it all. Peace.